What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of High Five Podcast on your favorite channel, 5 Sports. And in this episode, I am talking to James Green, a sports presenter, broadcaster, anchor, all the way from United Kingdom. और हमने बात की है इंग्लैंड के इस वर्ल्ड कप में खराब परफॉर्मेंस के बारे में, पाकिस्तान की खराब परफॉर्मेंस के बारे में, विराट कोहली's obsession with his hundreds in the World Cup especially, and how can you make career in sports journalism in the media sector. So बहुत ही ज़्यादा आपको मजा आने वाला है और इसी तरीके की एपिसोड्स के लिए मेक श्योर टू क्लिक ऑन द सब्सक्राइब बटन, प्रेस द बेल नोटिफिकेशन, बिकम पार्ट ऑफ द फैमिली एंड एंजॉय दिस वंडरफुल एपिसोड फीचरिंग जेम्स ग्रीन. व्हाट्स अप एवरीवन, जैसे कि मैंने आपको प्रॉमिस किया था, आई हैव विद मी अ वेरी सीनियर स्पोर्ट्स प्रेजेंटर एंड ब्रॉडकास्टर ऑल द वे फ्रॉम इंग्लैंड, मिस्टर जेम्स ग्रीन. जेम्स ग्रीन, वेलकम टू द शो. होप यू आर फाइन. हाउ इज लाइफ ट्रीटिंग यू these days?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. The cricket and rugby could have been better this weekend for the English, but apart from that, all is good. Life is good.
Yeah, I was just getting into that. It's been a tough week for the sports fans in general, especially the England fans for the Rugby World Cup, the heartbreaking loss against South Africa, and then the Cricket World Cup, which you guys were supposed to dominate. What's happening there? You guys were the favorites. People were rating you before India, especially when the World Cup is happening in India. So I think that was a very heavy baggage you guys were carrying. What do you think went wrong for the England, and can they still turn it around from here?
Look, first of all, India were always favourites. Always. Never, ever England favourites. It was always in India who were favourites. Look, England, it's been really disappointing. There's no getting away from it. You know, we all remember what happened 4 years ago, and we still had such optimism going into this World Cup. The squad looks so strong. You know, you always pinpoint England in recent years as having that strong, long batting lineup, and then the ability to mix it up, change it with the ball, so many different options. Then they made, the problem is England have got too many players not in form. They're then making these multiple changes into the game, which is completely changing the whole philosophy of what the positive aspects of English cricket has been built on over recent years. And it culminated on just one of the most horrendous games I think I've ever seen in my lifetime, really. So one-sided. And we're scratching our heads the whole way through, even at the start when we won the toss, sent them in. I'm thinking to myself, the track must be a terrible track because it's such a warm day, such a hot day. I say, it must be a terrible track. And then you're watching it and you're watching the England bowlers fall apart with cramp and tiredness and sweating, and you're going, it just doesn't make any sense. And it was just so one-sided. As soon as South Africa started, pushing their runs towards the end with Henrik Klaassen, who's class, by the way. I think, in that middle order, it's very difficult to find anyone better than him in world cricket right now in those middle order positions. And I'm not putting Virat Kohli in there, all right? He's higher up. We ignore him for now. But, look, it was really disappointing. It's and I don't see how it's going to turn back. Back in 2019, we needed to win our last 2 games to even progress. And they managed to do it. And there was always this confidence that they were going to do it, even though they had India and New Zealand to get past. But it just doesn't feel that way this time around. They haven't given anything that's shown that they're willing for the fight, willing for the battle. But look, who knows? Still, it's like the longest tournament ever, isn't it? It's just never ending. So you never ever know. Never know.
Yeah, I think it's a very long tournament. But you said that India were favorites before the tournament started. But let me tell you, there were many senior journalists, many senior ex-cricketers rated England above India. For the simple reason that India was not playing much of an ODI cricket in the recent times. They played before the IPL, then KL Rahul got injured, then Shreyas Iyer got injured. There was very no information about Jasprit Bumrah, whether he will be available or not. And then suddenly all the pieces, came together in the Asia Cup. And the contrary happened with England. Jofra Archer got injured. Now Reece Topley is missing out. They dropped Jason Roy. How do you see that Jason Roy decision? Do you think he should have been in this squad, or they, dropped him too early? Because we here in India feel that he was a little hard done by the ECB and the team management. they let him go too early because they were very excited for somebody like a Harry Brook. And we all thought that he deserved at least before Ben Stokes, because Ben Stokes is my favorite cricketer. I'm not going to come after you if you say Ben Stokes is better than Virat Kohli. I'm not going to come after you. I think he's the best. I think he transformed the test cricket, the way they are playing right now. But when he retired, dropping Jason Roy to accommodate Harry Brook, Ben Stokes, how do you see all that decisions?
Yeah, look, it was the problem with the Jason Roy situation was simply because he wasn't fit. So he didn't play any part in the warm-up series with New Zealand. And that was a real cause for concern with the selectors. It was whether, is he going to go into this tournament? He's basically just going to have to hit the ground running straight from an injury, no warm-up, no practice, nothing, no preparation, go straight in and expect at the top of the order, which is always the most difficult time to come in and bat, for him to hit the ground running as we expect Jason Roy to do. Even before the injury, he hasn't really been in any form recently either. So look, I understand how difficult the situation was. I still think fundamentally the best part of English cricket over the last, 5-6 years, the development of changes, certainly with what Owen Morgan brought in, was having that real powerful hitting at the top of the order, and that really propelled England and set them up. And I feel like just moving away from that isn't beneficial. Look, it's a hard one because if you think about it, you've got Bairstow and Milan. Now, Milan is the most underrated one-day international cricketer in the world, in my opinion. His stats are just off the charts. And he has to be in some capacity. But could we have moved everybody down the order? I think it's possible. I think you'd have probably had to be a bit more flexible with Joe Root, not necessarily coming in at 4 or 3. Depending on the game situation, he may have actually found himself a bit lower down. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad position to be in. So look, I would have put him in. I really would have included him. He was so crucial for England in 2019. Yes. He's experienced, and look, if it comes off with Roy at the top, it really sets England up. So look, yeah, that was a bit of a shame. Have they gone down the Harry Brook route? Look, Harry Brook is incredibly talented. He's going to be a star in the future, but he's not an opening batsman. He's a middle order batsman where you've got Butler, Stokes, Root, etc., all packed in that middle order section. So look, was the squad ready for a Jason Wright? I think it probably was, but I do understand the reason why he wasn't selected. And it's easy to go in hindsight and look and go, well, hold on a minute, things haven't gone well. So let's point out, oh, well, Jason Roy isn't there. Well, Jason Roy is not the only reason why things haven't gone well for England. The fact that we can't bowl properly at the moment is a big problem. Yeah. And we can't seem to get any consistency with the bat too. So, yeah, look, there's multiple facets as to why it's not happening. But if you're asking me, yeah, Jason Roy would have been in there. Oh, and by the way, and on to your point about all those journalists, esteemed journalists who said India weren't favourites, they were wrong. They were wrong. They were wrong to even predict that. India, to me, regardless of their personnel issues coming into the tournament, they were always favourites, always favourites. And that Asia Cup just showed and proved it to me that they're going to get, the players were coming back to the right fitness, but the batting lineup, the bowling lineup, every aspect of that Indian side is just perfectly set up for one-day cricket. They can chase, they can set targets. They've got the variety in their bowling attack. Look, there's in those conditions, the only thing that's going to prevent India from winning it is India themselves, as we've seen in recent tournaments. In those crucial games, in the semi-final, are they going to turn up on those moments? And I think that's the only thing to be concerned about. But you know, if you're playing in front of 130,000 fans, which, by the way, we have to keep reminding us it's cricket. 130,000 fans in a cricket stadium is just ridiculous. And the rarity where you get a whole stadium supporting one team, it's unheard of. So with that support, I don't see how anyone else is going to win.
That's a good point you raised. I initially it didn't occur to me that I should ask this question to you, but you have covered so many sports, football and cricket and all different sorts of sports. You have been to multiple stadiums. How much effect does this take on the opposition side? Somebody like a Pakistani squad, somebody like a Babar Azam, huge expectations, subcontinent World Cup. People are comparing him with Joe Root. People are comparing him with Virat Kohli day and night coming into the stadium. More than 100,000 people, as you said, shouting Kohli, Kohli, and you're getting booed at the toss. How does it take a toll on yourself?
Definitely. There's no way that any professional sportsman can say that they're not feeling those emotions that they feel in those arenas, in those stadiums. Doesn't matter what sport, whether it's, you know, boxing, that happens quite a lot in boxing. You know, one fighter's in there, he's really got the home support, and then the other one is just booed. And as a sportsman, you listen, you hear. When you're in that stadium, whether you're on the ground as a reporter, presenter that I do, you hear the noise. You hear the sounds. You hear the words being said. As the players, they hear every ounce of it. And look, that is daunting. That's so daunting. And they wouldn't have experienced it before. This is the thing. To that extent that we've seen at this World Cup, in particular, that India-Pakistan game, this is brand new. 130,000 of one team. We don't see it. It's unreal, and it would have definitely had an effect. It would be an experience for them, and some players will use that as motivation to go, you know what, I'm going to try and shut these fans up. You know, let's see what 130,000 seat stadium sounds like. Deafening silence when we win. Great use of being motivated, but you know, for the Indian players, oh my goodness me, when you get past the pressure element, when you just need that pick me up and you're able to take the energy from the crowd, it's special. Those are memories these players are going to have for the rest of their careers and the rest of their lives. They will never forget these moments, and it really will propel them. But yeah, look, for Pakistan, yeah, it's that's tough. That's a tough environment to be in.
And since then, they haven't recovered. They lost against Australia in Bengaluru. Then they lost recently 15 minutes ago against Afghanistan, the game they should have won. Everyone thought they would win. And that is what Shoaib Akhtar also said, the thing which you pointed out, that if you are really an aggressive person, somebody like a Virat Kohli or somebody like a Shoaib Akhtar himself, he said it takes guts, it takes a big heart and the mental capacity to think that I will shut these 100,000 people and they will remember my name. So I think that was a very valid criticism from Shoaib Akhtar. But coming back to the English team, they will be playing against India in Lucknow. And I'm from Lucknow right now. I'm sitting in my home. And this stadium also has, it's a new stadium, not a lot of games have been played here. The wicket is also very tricky. Sometimes it's really spin friendly. Sometimes the ball comes onto the bat. You don't know what to do. But the dew has really started to come in here, and it's a 50-60,000 capacity stadium, and it will be full. Lucknow has its fair share of criticism for not turning out in numbers, but it's a new stadium, so I think it will be full for the India-England game. But before that, England has a game on 26th. It's against Sri Lanka, relatively weaker side than England, you will say. So how do you see England preparing for the Sri Lankan games? I think my point about the English squad is that they have too many options to choose from. They are confused between Liam Livingstone and Moeen Ali. Last game, you saw both of them at the bench. David Willey, Sam Curran, same kind of player, left arm seamer, medium pacer who can bat. Then Jofra Archer was there, but Braden Cars has been selected as a replacement for Reece Topley. How do you see this Jofra Archer situation in the English dressing room right now? He is there as the backup, but he's not been selected in the 15 as a replacement.
But again, he's not fit. He's not. I think there's been there's been a big confusion around it, and we hear that, you know, Jofra Archer's training with the squad. The assumption from everybody is that, okay, he's the first replacement. The reality is there is no replacement. There hasn't been, and the ECB have set that out from the start, that there's nobody in line specifically as a certain replacement. Now, you can look at that and say that's a bad thing. That's however you want to. But ultimately, you know, if you lose a fast bowler, you want a fast bowler to come in. If you lose a top order batter, you want a top order batter coming in. You know, you lose a spinner, you want a spinner. So there's no point in having just like one or two people as that backup option. But look, with Jofra, he's there to get his fitness back. He's there to train and be amongst that squad and amongst that group and get back into the England fold, the England atmosphere, work with the England coaches. He's not fit. He hasn't played for so long. He's had so many injury problems over so many years now. It's such a shame, man. It's he's a mighty fine cricketer, incredibly talented, a player that could play all forms of the game, but injuries have savaged his career and he's not fit enough to take part. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think he was ever fit enough and will ever be fit enough to play any part of this World Cup. I don't believe that was the aim. I really don't, because I think if England got through to the semi-finals and final, I just think it would be a wrong decision to bring in someone like Jofra, who hasn't played cricket for so long, and then drop somebody who's been a key part of the reason why your country's got to that stage. I just see that would never happen. So look, he's there for sole purpose of getting his fitness back, being a part of the group, get that mentality right, ready for when England will need him in the future. So look, I don't see the Jofra thing. I park it. I put it to the side. He's not part of the squad, in my opinion. But look, yeah, you're. It's interesting to hear what you say about the amount of options that England have, and they have got different options. They've got different ways to go. The Liam Livingstone one, he's becoming, for me, one of the most infuriating players ever. His batting just is, you just never know what you're going to get, and consistently, it's not been good enough. And ultimately, his first premise in the team is his batting. He's there as a middle order batter to really like attack the opposition. His bowling has been actually his bowler's probably been realistically more useful, that they should utilize a little bit more. And I think they undervalue his bowling and focus solely on what he does as a batter. Now, I personally would have him lower down the order. I just would. I just don't think he's effective where he is at the moment. It's just like a rarity, maybe one in 6, 1 in 7 games, he might do something. And that's not enough. That's not going to win you a World Cup. So, look, I would like him in for his bowling options, because I think he's underrated, actually, as a bowler. The fact he can, one ball bowl off spin, the next ball bowl leg spin. We don't see that in the modern game at all. So it's a great option for England to have. But, they've got to get fundamentals right, not just on the pitch, off the pitch as well with their selection. Are you going to bat first? Are you going to bowl first? If you win the toss, make the right choice this time instead of stupid option that he did on the weekend. Look, there's a lot that needs work, and the game against Sri Lanka is a big opportunity to get back to winning ways against a struggling Sri Lankan side. They've got to win. They've got to win. But it's really hard to see, isn't it? You see how the tournament's panning out. India, New Zealand look really strong. South Africa look very strong. And then you can never rule the Aussies out either. And I think to me, it feels like there's a real separate table. You've got the strong four at the top, and then you've got everyone else. And, sadly, as an English fan, I think England are amongst everybody else at the moment, which is a shame.
They are at number 9 at the points table right now, the Englishmen. And Pakistan was looking good. It was looking that they still had the chance to reach the top 4. But now, after today's loss against Afghanistan, who also defeated England a few days back, I think that was a big setback from England, and they never really I think these kind of losses really set you back in a tournament away from home. You're just looking to find ways, and then a defeat against a team like Afghanistan, which everybody thinks that you will win. So coming back to the World Cup, amongst the top 4 teams which you have India right now, who are almost through. They have a game against Netherlands. They have a game against Sri Lanka now. So even if they lose against England, which I hope they don't, but if they lose against England, they will lose against South Africa. Then also realistically, it looks like that they will be through to the semi-finals, and they will be among the top 2 teams, which means they will play the number 3rd team and the number 4th team on the points table. So do you think that South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, as you said, looks really settled in the top 4? And how do you see these teams competing against each other? And who do you think is the favorite to lift the trophy this year?
India, the favourites. You know it. I know it. We all know it, really. Come on. Look, they're the favourites. We spoke about India. I just think they're just an exceptional outfit. I really do at the moment. I think I would be concerned by South Africa. Obviously, they had that slip up against the Netherlands, which, by the way, actually was the biggest shock of the tournament. But they then bounced back and absolutely, spanked England, which would have given them so much confidence moving forward. I think they're a really dangerous side. I think their batting lineup, they've got so much firepower that they can really take games away from the opposition. They would be someone I'd be concerned about. New Zealand they've just got this knack. New Zealand, they're this side that, in my head, I never think New Zealand are that good. Right? I really don't. It's so ridiculous. I don't think they're that good, but they're always there or thereabouts in World Cups. I mean, we saw 4 years ago making it to the final. They've had a terrific start to this tournament. Yes, okay, they lost to India last time out, but they've had a really strong start. Again, they beat England in the opening match very, very comfortably. They're very consistent, New Zealand. So you've got the South African firepower. You've got New Zealand just consistently play really solid cricket. The Aussies are they're the inconsistent ones. I don't know what you're going to get with that Australian team at the moment. You look on paper, their side is packed, jam-packed full of quality, high-class quality, loads of experience. Someone like David Warner, we write him off so often, and yeah, he's not a favourite amongst the English fans, but we saw what he did in the last game. 163, I think he scored. He's still a really devastating opening batsman. So look, you've got the inconsistency of Australia, consistency of New Zealand, South Africa, that firepower, but you've got India that I just can't see past India in their conditions, their home crowd, just how solid they are from 1 to 11. It's really, really difficult to see past them. But look, we get to the semi-finals. We know what it's like. Crunch time. It's win or go home. And that's where that's just that point where can India get themselves over the line? And that's going to be the biggest challenge they've got. And that's going to be a mental challenge because they've got the ability. To me, they're the best team in the competition. It's just whether they've got that mentality to really get themselves over the line at the toughest of times.
New Zealand, after that 2019 World Cup, they played the finals of 2021, lost against Australia. They won the WTC final against India in England. And then they played semi-final in the 2022 T20 World Cup, lost against Pakistan in Sydney. And now they are again really looking favorites to reach, especially in that top 2 position. And they are the only team right now who are able to challenge India in some kind of, they were able to drag the game till the 45th, 46th over. They stopped Kohli from getting the 100. So especially in the conditions, there was dew, there was cloud over that stadium coming through. The game has to be halted for some time. So,
a question for you: What did you make of Kohli trying to get his 100 again right at the end? Because I've got a point of view on that. But what did you make of it?
And now you're going to get me in trouble when I post this podcast online.
Well, I just think. Go on. Were you happy that he was trying to get his 100? Yet the game was getting a little bit close.
We go into the technicalities of the 100. He started batting quite aggressively after that 80-run mark to reach that milestone. So indirectly, it helped India. Scored 10-15 runs or 10-15 balls before for getting that 100. But in my opinion, you just give the strike to the other batsman. In my opinion, if there's a single, you take it, you give it to the other batsman. If he can hit a boundary, you clap for him. And I was actually a little surprised to see that from him, especially in a little bit of a close game, because there was no batting left after Ravindra Jadeja. India used to play Shardul Thakur, but they had to drop him because Hardik Pandya was not available. And Rohit Sharma is treating Shardul Thakur as the 6th bowler. Hardik Pandya, Rohit Sharma treats him as the 5th bowler. So now you have to get a 5th bowler. So there was literally no batting, and there were at least a couple of overs of Loki Ferguson remaining who could just run through the tail enders. So I think that in the overall technicalities in the world of Twitter, where I don't want to be called out,
because I don't have much followers on Twitter. Also, I think you can make a point that it helped India because he scored a six and a boundary and finished the game. But I think not taking the single, asking Jadeja to not run the second run. I think it was just a little bit overboard. I think. What do you think?
I think it's really disappointing. I thought it showed, look, Virat Kohli is one of the greatest batters to ever play the game. He's that good. We know it in England. Of course, you guys know it in India. But that, for me, it didn't sit right with me. It felt self-obsessed. It felt like it was the Virat Kohli show. It took the gloss away from a team performance against a quality opposition. I didn't like it one bit. The game was getting tight, as you mentioned. It could have, something could have happened at the end there, and you
have seen funny things happen in this game.
It's a World Cup. You don't take risks in a World Cup. Now, look, if you qualify, if India qualified and they're top, they're through to the semi-finals, fine. If you want to do that, yeah, fine. All right, I don't like it, but do it. It doesn't matter, right? You're through. There's no risk, but things can change, and there's no guarantees in cricket. And I just didn't like it at all. I just thought it just really, now all the talk that's followed, journalists around the world, everybody's talking about Virat Kohli, taking the gloss away from everybody else that puts in the effort on that Indian team. I didn't like it at all. And, it's situations like that can really bite you on the backside, as we say in the UK. And it could, that can cause problems. So I didn't like it. I don't want to see it again. Certainly in the World Cup.
That happened in the last game as well, James.
It happened in the last game. Well, this is the thing. It happened in the last game.
In the first game, Rahul, when he hit that six, he was looking for a boundary and he timed it too brilliantly. Yep. That went over the rope, and then he was disappointed. I think that was not a good scene as an Indian cricket fan. You just sitting here, you have just defeated Australia, who were, before you played a series before them, with them before the World Cup, and you just defeated them in the first game. You were 3 down for 2 runs. You should be taking off your helmet and celebrating and running around the ground, not just sitting that, oh, I missed my 100. Sorry, the team won. I think that was a little bit of an overreaction from KL Rahul. And then the person who does not do these kind of things is Rohit Sharma.
Yeah.
Have you seen him doing these kind of things? No. I think he just comes and he's the one who he kills. He is right now killing the chase in the first 10 overs for India. I think he's been an absolutely magnificent leader and a brilliant batsman, which he is. There were talks about him not being fully fit. Sometimes he looks overweight. His legs, his knees, he has a couple of surgeries on his knees, so he's not really as quick as he used to be in the field. But I think he's batting brilliantly. But I completely agree with you, because it has happened in back-to-back 2 games. If it would have been an odd situation, you could just see, oh, okay, you wanted to get 100, okay, no problem. It was a weaker side, Bangladesh, which got 100 against the New Zealand. But I think against New Zealand, especially when there was no batting left to come, you had Mohammad Shami and Bumrah and Kuldeep Yadav to come. So what do you think it's the mindset, especially in our region? Why do you think this is happening, especially in this World Cup?
I think I've been seeing so much stuff about, I think he needs one more 100 to break Sachin's record. Is that right?
He needs one more 100 to equal Sachin record in the ODI format and 200s to break it.
Yeah, and I think because we've seen a lot of that made out in the media. But for those 3 figures and that prestige of overtaking Sachin, it's a dangerous place to be in. You're kind of taking cricket for granted, and it's just, like I said, it will bite you. It will bite you back. So I hope whether they talk about it amongst themselves, whether the Indian changing room think it's no big deal and they were comfortable, they're relaxed, they're going to win the game. I don't know. I mean, look, I guess if he's still going to keep getting 90s or close to hundreds every single match, I don't think they mind. Do you know what I mean? As long as they keep winning the games, then maybe they won't mind. But I just don't like it. Cricket's a strange sport in the fact it's a team sport, but it's made up of individuals who are in and can dictate the game and change the direction of the game. There's not other team sports are not like that. Cricket's very different in that respect, where it's like an individual sport in a team environment. But the ultimate thing is it's a team game, and you've got to do what's best for the team, whether that's, taking an extra run, being run out just to get your mate on strike, whatever it might be. That's how you play the game of cricket, and it's those small, intricate details that can often make the difference towards the end of games, especially if they're so tight. I mean, goodness me, we only have to look at the World Cup final in 2019, how tight games can be. That, sometimes that sacrificial lamb who gives their wicket away to get someone else in who can hit the boundaries, that's part of that process. But if you've got a selfish player who's just thinking about their stats, their numbers, it can really create problems. So I don't want to see it again. I really don't want to see it again. I want to see, obviously I want England to win the World Cup. They're not going to win the World Cup. But I want to see India just show the world that they're the best team in the world, but be ruthless. I don't care. Who cares about hundreds? Be ruthless. Get the runs. Get them as quick as you can or as efficiently as possible. Get that victory and move on to the next. And have that mindset, because you're going to need it when it comes to crunch time. And that's where it's going to be shown up,
Yeah, I think there is a lot of scrutiny going around about the certain players. Before the World Cup, there was a lot of scrutiny about KL Rahul. So I can understand that he wanted to make a statement in the first game. There were 15 or 17 overs remaining. I don't remember right now, but there were a lot of overs remaining. So I can understand somebody like a KL Rahul. He got ripped from T20 team. Then his test captaincy got taken away from him. Then he was dropped from the ODI team. Then Hardik Pandya was made the vice captain. So he had a very rough year. Then he had a couple of injuries. So I can still, grasp it. I can still accept it. But somebody like a Virat Kohli who has 73, 74 hundreds, I think that was a little bit overboard. But I think you have a Rahul Dravid as the head coach of the Indian team. I don't know if you remember, he declared when Sachin Tendulkar was batting at 196 or 194 in Pakistan in 2004. So I think with him right at the top, these kind of things, I think they are really okay with it, as you said, as long as they are winning the game. I think this is the bottom line of it, as we can put it out, because in the current situation, I really don't see this happening. But yes, in the easy games also, I would really like to just, like we saw in the IPL, Yashasvi Jaiswal. I don't know if you have seen, if you saw that game against the Kolkata Knight Riders. Young lad, ready to be called into the Indian team, batting at 96, and he just didn't care. He stayed there at 96, and Sanju Samson finished it off, and he celebrated. But I think this World Cup is a little bit very tricky for me. I'm seeing really different things right now. England languishing at number 9, Virat Kohli getting hundreds, and all these kind of things. But now, last topic about the England team, because in the IPL we see these players. The IPL that just happened 4 months ago. Harry Brook was opening for Sunrisers Hyderabad. He got 100 in Kolkata, but after that he had a very rough tournament and was dropped later on. We see Josh Butler getting the orange cap, the leading run scorer in 2022. Then David Warner, captain in the Delhi Capitals in the absence of Rishabh Pant. So these players, Henrik Larsson had a phenomenal IPL. He got 100 in the IPL as well, playing for Sunrisers in the middle overs in the middle order. So these players are spending a lot of time in India right now. So we are seeing the advantages of it with some player like Mitchell Marsh. Really, look, as soon as he get a good wicket in Bangalore, he really tanked the Pakistani bowlers for fun. And David Warner coming back in form, and all these players. Liam Livingstone also played some good innings. Moeen Ali was a very key part in the success of Chennai Super Kings. Mahendra Singh Dhoni utilized him brilliantly, sometimes sending him up, sometimes keeping him down. So, but the English bowlers don't play much of the IPL. Reece Topley got injured in the first game. Mark Wood played, I think, 4 games for Lucknow Super Giants. Then he got injured. So do you think this is playing a part, the conditions, the weather? Because the weather is changing in India. It's really hot in Mumbai and it's cooler here in Lucknow and it is way cooler in Dharamshala. So do you think this is the reason why these kind of things are happening?
Yeah, I think that plays a part, definitely. I think you'll see, and we're seeing in this tournament, you mentioned, a couple of players there, like, David Warner, he's used to playing in Indian conditions now. I mean, it's not, we've got to, we do have to be careful. And I say we as, I'm in the media, a journalist, and we do have to be careful of emphasizing, stressing, well, India should win in Indian conditions when you've got players that are playing sometimes just as much in Indian conditions.
Yeah.
That's how the nature of now the IPL, etc., that has brought to cricket. So, yeah, look, but I think it makes a difference. Yeah, I think it does. And we saw that on the weekend, that they just weren't prepared for the heat. And that's disappointing. But that's a lot down to the preparations of the ECB, the coaching staff, to get them ready for what Indian conditions are going to be like. It's also no secret that Mumbai is going to be hot. Somewhere else is going to be a bit cooler. It's no secret that dew's going to play a factor later on in the game when the game gets to the evening time. So this should be lessons that they are prepared for, and they learn previously before going into the World Cup about. It's down to preparation. It's down to a bit of mindset. I just, and also I think probably the biggest problem that England have had is that you've got players, unfortunately, just hitting bad form at the same time.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might have one bowler that's struggling. We seem to have 2-3 bowlers that are really struggling at the moment. And when you have that, it makes it very difficult. I mean, when you've got, Chris Woakes has been, he was a player of the tournament, player of the Ashes series. Been one of England's actually most consistent bowlers across formats for quite some time now. Sam Curran, again, he was in pretty good form. He had a good one-day series with New Zealand when he came in. He looked good. He's been out to the IPO. He's played in Indian conditions before. He's aware of the conditions. He's not.
He's the most expensive player of IPL ever. Sam Curran, most expensive player of IPL. And he didn't have a really good IPL, but in the 2023 playing for the Punjab Kings, he had a very bad IPL. He got a 50. I think they didn't utilize him properly as well. I think it was a very bad ploy from the management, whoever was taking the call, because they were sending him sometimes way lower down the order, making him bowl in the middle overs, then sometimes at the death. So, and the angles were also not right. You can't bowl on a shorter side to Andre Russell in Kolkata. He will just smack you with the angle. So I think some poor captaincy, some poor decisions from the management. But overall, yes, he didn't have a really good IPL this time.
Yeah, so he's got that. He's carried that with him, and he's fighting to get his form up, and it's not working out. When you've got 2 frontline bowlers like that really struggled, then the best bowler's been Reece Topley. He then gets injured. I mean, that was that as soon as he got injured against South Africa, everything changed, it felt like. And Reece Topley struggled with his fitness. He struggled with his form. He's not always been England's most consistent bowler, but he's not getting any consistency. Mark Wood's not particularly bowling well. His figures, he's been hit around the park, so he's struggling. You've got so many bowlers that are struggling at the same time. You said about Moeen Ali, can't even get in the side at the moment. And again, you're like, really? We can't squeeze a Mo in there somewhere? I don't know. Everything just feels up. It just, it comes down to form. We've got Ben Stokes, obviously. He picked up that injury before the tournament, which is a big blow. He was so undercooked coming into this game, and we expect so much from Ben Stokes. It's fine. Pressure moments. He's going to come in. He'll do the business. It'll be fine. Well, actually, no. He still needs to get himself back to his fitness, and he's not fit still. I mean, the fact he's still participating in the World Cup is a bit of a surprise. After the Ashes series, he was adamant he was going to get his knee sorted, get himself prepared, ready for the new year, for what's to come, Tour of India, etc. in the new year. And then all of a sudden he comes out of the blue and says, actually, I fancy the World Cup. And I don't know whether that's the right decision. Again, we talk about, I spoke about Virat Kohli being selfish in his batting at times. Is Ben Stokes in his feeling? Is that a selfish decision, or will England benefit from having Stokes there regardless of his physical condition? I don't know. How many times can we rely on Ben Stokes to pull something out of the bag for England to succeed? And maybe we're asking too much from him, and maybe we should be, look, get yourself sorted. It's down to others now to step up. And there's enough talent in that side to step up.
Yeah.
They're just, it's just not happening. It's not happening.
Over the last 4 years since the 2019 World Cup, I think England's ODI performances have really been not that great. I mean, they have played 12 ODI series. They have won just 5 out of it. They lost the last series they played against India in England, and they lost the 2021 series against India in England. Although that was a very close series, all high scoring games, and almost 320, 313 every game. And Stokes was batting at number 3, and he got a brilliant 100 in the second ODI. I remember he smacked Kuldeep all around the park. Kuldeep was not to be seen anywhere for the next 1 year. Then he made a comeback in 2022. So I think all of that played a part. But if he's not bowling, if he's not running hard, then I don't want to see that Ben Stokes on the field. The kind of Ben Stokes that I have seen in 2013, giving it back to Mitchell Johnson when everybody was just flying back to UK, everybody was just taking retirements, and he was giving it back. So that is the kind of Ben Stokes that I know and that I am a fan of. So let's see if we can really turn it around from here. But what do you think about the future of ODIs? Okay, now since we are on the topic of the World Cup, Dinesh Karthik, he was associated with Sky Sports, and he was talking in a commentary on Sky Sports that I think somebody asked him, I don't know, it was Atherton or Nasir, he asked him that what do you think about the World Cup happening in India, a lot of excitement, and basically the question was that they were not really, they didn't really think that this kind of World Cup will have such less excitement, especially happening in the subcontinent, because they covered the IPL and they know the kind of the cricket lovers India has, and it's not really matching at that level. Even before the World Cup, there was not much hype, and so Dinesh Karthik was of the opinion that this is the last ODI World Cup, and the next ODI World Cups will be converted to the T20 World Cups, the one happening in South Africa in 2027. Do you agree with that point of view? Because there are a lot of people talking about the death of ODI cricket, so to say.
Yeah. These are the same people that were talking about the death of Test match cricket. You're killing off Test match cricket. You're killing off ODI. We're going down to the 20 overs, or with 100 or the 10 over blasts. What happens now around the world? Look, people wrote off Test cricket, and I can speak from an English side. We have seen certainly in my lifetime, the greatest, if not second greatest, Ashes series that I remember. Going back 2005 was pretty spectacular. But this series was it gripped the nation. People were talking about Test match cricket. People who wouldn't even have any interest in either cricket or certainly at the Test level, they're interested in it. And it wasn't just the men's Ashes, the effect it had on the women's Ashes, which was brilliant as well. So we've seen that ignite, and everybody got behind it and loved what was going on. And we saw Test match cricket, the viewing figures were huge. So that's not dying. Clearly, there's a big audience for it. We only go back to 4 years ago. Again, I speak from an English point of view, but the World Cup was the dramatic ending of that 2019 World Cup final. How can you want ODI cricket to go when you're taking away potential magic moments like that we're going to remember for our lifetime? So look, we know the dominance 2020 cricket has around the world with the franchise leagues and the IPL, Big Bash, etc. That's great, and the excitement it brings, it's for the audience, it reduces the time. Cricket is a long game. We all have busy lives to sit there and watch time and time again. There's not everybody who's going to do it. ODI can be a long match. At the moment, we're seeing longer and longer matches because they're not getting through the overs very quickly. I'd like to see something changed with that for sure. I think they need to be strict on the over rate. I think it's getting ridiculous. It really is. It doesn't help the game how slow it is. But I don't see the ODI World Cup going. I think they need to reformat it. I think they need to look at how they do it. I think it could be done very differently. because it's long. It's just so long. It's. And I'm not talking about I actually would like to see more nations involved, but we need to do it differently because we can see these, when we're given associate nations like Netherlands and they're beating South Africa. It's incredible.
Imagine if West Indies or Zimbabwe here, they might even defeat England or India or somebody like Zimbabwe beating Pakistan like they did in 2022.
It can happen. It's a 1 day game. It can happen. We've seen it happen. We see it happen. And these are the big moments in cricket. We need to give visibility in those nations to grow the game as well. So we need to make sure they have the opportunity to play. I hate the fact it's been cut down, but the format for me just doesn't work. It's too long. It's too long. And it's almost like, we'll just wait until the semi-finals, then it kicks into action and we can get to it. Or at least wait until the last week of fixtures so that we know who's going to make it through to the semi-final. That's the only time it gets exciting. We haven't really seen true excitement so far in the tournament, have we? The games haven't been particularly close. It's been very one-sided most of the time. So, look, I really think they need to work on the format. I would like to see a format of 4 groups, 4 teams in each group, play each other, 3 games. You go through either top 1 or top 2. If you want to have a quarterfinal, semi-final, I'd prefer to see that quarterfinal, semi-final, but give more nations an opportunity. I think that'd be much more exciting. It's just at the moment, it's just long. People can lose interest very, very quickly. We've got to be really careful. We're not talking about you and I, who are big cricket supporters, are big cricket fans. We're going to watch it because we love cricket. But we're talking about people who we want into the sport to help grow the sport. We need to increase the visibility. And again, look, in India, it's going to be big. It's going to be spectacular. We know that, and that's great. But we've also got to make sure we think about everybody else and the audience around the world. And we want to see the sport grow. We've got to keep the interest high. And games that are just petering along like nothing games, it's not very exciting. So, yeah, I'd like to see the format change. I think it can do. I think there's a position for it. But we need something different.
I think the World Cup tournament is just really too long, starting from 4th or 5th of October, going till the 19th of November with just, about 3 knockout games, 3 crunch games we are talking about.
3.
And it was the 2007 World Cup, like you mentioned, 4 groups of 4 teams. You had 16 teams, then you have Super 8. You can divide it into 4 teams like you do in the T20 format. But now we play in Super 12, but you can do it in Super 8. But in that World Cup, India and Pakistan got knocked out from the group stage. And since then, the ICC really changed it, I think, because the thought process behind that is that you want to maximize the India-Pakistan games mostly, and then South Africa, England, and Australia.
I know.
Because they are the
of course. Absolutely. We all get that. We do get that from an audience perspective. But you talk about sporting integrity, and we want just to... We've got to enjoy a tournament. We can't be feeding a tournament just to ensure that we see India, Pakistan make it as far or give them as many games as possible. I get it. I do get it from a visibility and how we're going to get more eyes on this tournament. Yes, if India go through to the final, it's probably going to be the most watched tournament we've ever had, right? That's a fact. That's what's going to happen. But does that make it? How are we judging this success? Is that a success? Well, great. That's brilliant. But then if we're not including and giving opportunities to other nations, if we're not bringing in eyes from all over the world to kind of experience and enjoy this cricket and play a World Cup where it should be tense, there's no reason why India should get through. Why should they? They shouldn't be given that opportunity. They've got to fight for it. And if it means the group stage, like we saw, as you mentioned, back in 2007, India and Pakistan didn't get through, well, that's on them. They've got to step up in those key moments. It makes those games that much more critical and important. And for me as a fan, I would rather see those, you don't want to get off to a losing start. You've really got to hit the ground running straight away. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling. I think we see it in all other sports, right? Rugby, football, World Cup's exactly the same. Four teams in a group. Sometimes sometimes one of the big teams doesn't make it through.
Saudi Arabia defeating Argentina in Qatar. That was a spectacular moment. Everybody was talking about it. So these kind of games get you more eyeballs and eyeballs from people who have particularly no interest in the sport or have no knowledge about.
For
So
sure.
I think we'll see that in the future. I think
I
they're
hope so.
really talking about it. I just heard the news that there is a meeting the ICC is calling about discussing about the future of ODI cricket. I haven't authenticated it yet, but if that is something they're doing it right after the World Cup, I think it does not send a very good message, especially if the World Cup is happening in India and it is just what half of the World Cup has been done yet. Still a long, long way to go. Every team has to play 4 or 5 games more, so I think it's a long way to go. But what do you think about the T20 leagues that are, that I was a very big fan of Tri Series. The
Mhm.
last Tri Series that I remember was between India, Australia, and England. And I remember Australia used to have a big Tri Series. You play 4 games against both the opposition, then you have the best of 3 finals. And now you have a 3 match ODI bilateral series, which was the final not so long ago. I think last time it happened in 2013 or 14 when India, Sri Lanka, and Australia played. What do you make of this tri-series dilemma? They say that because it is not financially very beneficial, the non-host games like England is hosting and Australia and New Zealand are playing, so the crowd will be less. People will not be watching if England is not playing. What do you make of this tri-series? Because it was magnificent. I used to really love these
Mm.
tri-series.
Yeah, look, it's so hard, and this is where it's difficult. International cricket is hard. It's hard to ensure that it is profitable.
Yeah.
And you make the ideal case in point. If there's in England, if there's India, New Zealand playing, might not be a full stadium, and unlikely it will be. And can you justify it? There is still the online audience, the TV audience that watch it. There's still broadcasters be very interested in it. I think tri-series have an extra element of competition. I think for players side of things, I mean, it's great for them. It's extra competition. It's that level up from just a normal fundamental one-day series against another country. It's that, all right, we've got to get through, win this game, we go through, we're in the knockout stage. It builds you to a World Cup. So look, I think they're great. I think they're more entertaining, for sure. It's just the struggle that the ICC have got, and all the countries' cricket boards have got is how can we profit from it? How can we make them profitable? And this is a challenge, and this is cricket's constant challenge. That's why we're seeing so much navigating and change of direction, whether it's a focus on the T20 games, whether it's, we're seeing England with 100 competition now, a launch of something brand new to try and build an audience and generate funds.
In India, we are already talking about a second IPL in the window of November and December.
A
There are
second
talks
one.
happening.
Wow.
I really don't know if that's possible. I really don't think so. It's possible because it's a festive season around that time. Tomorrow is Dashera, then we will have the Diwali, then the Christmas will come, and then the New Year. So there is a little bit of talks going around on social media. Then you see people just in the air, just trying to see how things are panning out right now. If you remember, there was a league I think 8 years ago called Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
2 teams from England, 3 teams from the IPL, 2 from Big Bash. So they are really looking into developing something like that. But the IPL franchises, how do you see this South African cricket board and all the other cricket boards like West Indies saying that we are incapable financially of playing a long test series, say of like a 5 matches like we play between India and England. India is going to South Africa after the World Cup. We're playing 5 T20s against Australia, and then we are going to South Africa for a couple of test matches because they say they can only play 2 test matches now. And all of their focus is on the SA20, where obviously the IPL franchises are involved. All of the 6 teams are basically IPL franchises. Kevin Peterson was not too happy about that. He said they are coming for the county cricket next. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about this financial dilemma that we need to invest in a T20 competition right now, so we can't really play Test cricket because England can afford it, India can afford it, but West Indies and South Africa saying they can't.
I mean, this is the dilemma that cricket's got at the moment. You've got India, England, Australia profitable, make loads of profit from all their cricket. Nobody else is. So how can we develop it? And ultimately, unless it's just going to be England, India, Australia doing everything on an international scene, it's going to get boring. Nobody's going to want to see it. So there needs to be help from England, India, Australia. Their cricket boards need to help. They need to be fundamental, in my opinion, to the next phase of how they can help South African cricket, how they can help West Indian cricket, because we need them. We need the West Indies. We need the West Indies. You know, the fact that they're not at this this World Cup is such a big shame. Now, I know that's down to the cricketing side, so that's absolutely fine. But we need the West Indies. Cricket is so much better off with a strong West Indies side. We'd love to see. It's been so long. It feels like, certainly Test level in particular. But it's tricky. You know, even when England go out to South Africa for the Test series, stadiums are never full. Never, ever full. And this is a real shame. And I wish I had a magic wand and was able to wave it and go, this is what I fundamentally think they should do. And they do it and it's all successful but it's complex. It's very, very complex. And I haven't got a solution myself as to how it works. We know why South Africa are looking for a strong 2020 league, because we've seen the success, what the IPL's done. The IPL is so successful financially. It's huge. It's massive. And the Big Bash is so successful for Australia financially. England now are learning that the 100 competition is successful financially. Again, it's filling stadiums. It's bringing in more income. They've got to figure out a way of incorporating all of it. England, India, Australia seem to get it right, but they've got big cricketing audiences. South Africa, they haven't seemed to have got the audience.
I think the T20 competition that they have set up with the IPL franchises really helped them as well, because first of all, it creates a environment for the Indian fans, and it is also convenient for the timing. You know, it starts at 9 o'clock India time, perfect dinner time. Then you can watch it in 3 hours and get it done by 11:30, 12 or 12:30. So I think it's very. So they are, grabbing the management, the audience as well. The management, led by Graham Smith, really thought about it, and they all the bidding went to the Indian franchises, and now the Middle Eastern nations are really stepping up their game. Now we have the ILT20. There was a news coming that Saudi Arabia is in touch with the BCCI to start a league of their own. I think that will be massive, but they want the Indian players to play in Saudi Arabia, which BCCI is not ready to do right now, because that is their only bargaining point left. So I don't think it will be much long before we see the Indian players. People are already retiring, like Ambati Rayudu retired at 36. Robin Uthappa playing in the ILT20. So we'll see these kind of things happening very quickly. Quinton de Kock is the example, is retiring from the ODI format after this. So I think it's really going to be tough for the international cricket if we're really looking from the financial perspective. But I need to ask you this. You went to Qatar for the Football World Cup, and you obviously would have covered the 2019 World Cup of Cricket World Cup, and you would have seen the environment. What do you think is the difference between Cricket World Cup and Football World Cup? And will cricket be able to match football at any, especially in our lifetimes? Will we see cricket at that level or somewhere close to it?
No, I hate to look. I'm a massive cricket fan. I really am, but I'm also a bit of a realist when it comes to cricket. And I mean this I'm going to try and be as respectful as I can to all of us, and being respectful to myself as a cricket fan. But for example, if I go and try and explain cricket to somebody who's never seen it before, it's the hardest thing you can do. It's really difficult. I lived in America for a couple of years, and really weirdly, when I moved out there, one of the questions I got asked all the time was about cricket. And it was always, hold up, right, so just explain this cricket. You can play 5 days and it can be a draw? How does that work? Like, that's the first thing they used to always talk about, was this cricket. When you break it down fundamentally, 5 days for a game to finish, and it might end in a draw. Is that going to bring in an audience? No. we love cricket so much, but when you again break down cricket, it's like with baseball. It's only exciting every moment there's a delivery. So when the pitcher's pitching it in baseball, when the bowler's bowling it in cricket, as soon as the dead ball, we're just watching the ball being passed around, right? Now, we love cricket because it's embedded in us and we love it. We understand the game. But cricket is a complex game. There's so much can go on in cricket.
And they're changing the rules every 11 months.
Rules are changing so much. It can get even more complicated. Why is this out? Why is this not out? Why is that changed? Well, no ball? What's a no ball? What's this? There's just so much to it. Football is a game that's been played around the world. It's easy to play a game of cricket, a game of football. You just get a ball. Cricket's slightly different. You need the stumps, you need a ball, you need a bat. Okay, so still fairly straightforward. But football is a sport now that's just been embedded around the world. You know, I think when I was in Qatar, actually, I'm sure I was talking about there were oh god, I can't even remember to name. I think there were either three. I can't remember if it was either three nations that didn't have any, or two nations didn't have rights to the World Cup. Two. I think there's only 4 or 5 countries in the world that don't have Premier League, the football Premier League rights.
Yeah.
That says it all to me where football is. Now, cricket, there's many countries you won't find cricket on the TV. You won't have countries that won't pay the broadcasting deals to watch cricket. So look, there's a long way. They're a long way apart. And I think you've got to be careful, and I think this in regard to all sports as well. You've got to be really careful trying to see football. Oh, right, we've got to try and get up to that level. I think you've got to have a sense of realism about that, and also I think that can be a detriment because then you can make mistakes. You can try and change things so much that you actually then stop appealing to your core brand and your core audience. And you're starting to move away from that. And I think that's the wrong thing. It's the same thing with, as we spoke before, about Test cricket going away. Like, Test cricket's a core. That's what I grew up. And I grew up in Test cricket. So I love Test cricket. So I'm in my 30s. There's people 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s who that was their fundamental, was Test cricket. Now, the new generation, there's going to be brought up in 2020. So it's going to be very different. But we don't ever want to see Test cricket die because that's what brought us into the sport. And if it goes, is our interest going to go with it? So I think you've got to be careful. You've got to look after your core audience and not look too much of. You can learn from what other sports are doing, but football's on a different stratosphere. It really is.
I asked this question because this is a really, debatable point right now, especially in the Indian sports journalism media sector. To explain things to certain people or to certain audience who really don't understand the management and the financial aspect of a sport to our audience, we use this analogy of football and cricket. And I remember Michael Atherton and Nasser there was a video on YouTube I saw on Sky Sports YouTube. And they were really critical about the ODI format and the ICC. They said that when the disaster struck the wall, that is when they wake up and decide to do different kind of things, changing the rules, changing the World Cup formats every 4 years. And they said it is really difficult for even us to remember that how many teams are playing in 2019 and how many teams are playing in 2023. So I think that was a really valid point. But I think they are trying to emulate the football. If you see the leagues happening, they came up with the Champions League idea. I think the BCCI is also really looking in that direction to get these clubs, these franchises so big. We started with 8, now we have 10. And I think in the next, after 5 years or after this cycle gets over of the media rights, we're going to have 12.
That's great. And you can, like I said, you can learn from football. You can learn, yes. But you're never going to get it onto that level. But you can definitely learn and you can take things. And look, I'm all for trying new things. I feel like if we all stay the same, we lose interest because we need change. And we see in our lives how everything's changed. The internet, Google, whatever it is, social media, everything in life is so different now as it was, say, 20 years ago. It's changing so much. We as human beings need to see change. And the same in a sport like cricket, we do need to see change. And if they can learn and grab lessons from other sports like football, Champions League stuff? Can they incorporate that? That's great. And look, the Indian market's so strong and the audience is so large that they're always going to be the biggest supported. The franchises with the most money are going to be the Indian ones. But then again, like in football with the Premier League clubs now are starting to get to that level where they've got more resources, bigger following than any other clubs around Europe. So then it's down to those clubs. Can they figure out a way? Okay, can other franchise come in and find a way? And will there be outside investment? Are we going to see investment come in from America? You're talking about investment from the Middle East. I think, Saudi money, that Saudi have just got money to spend. They want to spend it. They need to bring more eyes and they need to bring more tourism to Saudi Arabia now that the reliance on oil is going to slowly reduce. And so they need to find ways of bringing in an audience into their country. And we've seen it with boxing. We've seen it with wrestling, UFC, Formula One now over there. We will see it with cricket. Football, we've seen it obviously now with the Saudi Pro League and the amount of money they're investing in that. So it's good. It's good. And it's great for players. Look, I don't know about you, but I feel players, their careers can be very short. And it's a big commitment to be a professional cricketer. Not all are going to earn the money that the top level cricketers are going to earn that's going to set themselves up for the rest of their lives. The majority won't. That's a fact. That's the reality of it. So if there are opportunities for them to earn more money, great. Good for them. Like, go and embrace it. Go and enjoy it. I feel they deserve it. I really do.
We really saw what happened with Craig Keyswitter and James Taylor. Promising career cut short because of health issues, because of threatening injuries. So there are a lot of cases happening in India as well. We saw many young players coming through to the IPL and then suddenly vanishing in the air. Karun Nair played just one test match after getting a triple hundred against England in 2016. So these are really unexpected scenes. I totally agree with that. But I still believe that there is room for, if you really want it, you can have a tri-series, you can have a test series, and you can have the IPL in the hundreds as well. You just have to make it more appealing and you just have to really come in because you have bilaterals playing. Big countries play bilaterals all the time. And in India right now, as soon as the World Cup gets over, I think the World Cup gets over on 19 and on 23, we are playing with the Australia. I mean, what's the point of that, playing a T20 series against the Australians 2 to 3 days after the World Cup, and then after that we're going to South Africa, then we're playing Afghanistan in India, then we're playing England for the 5 tests, and then we're playing the IPL, and then the T20 World Cup. So it's just a lot of cricket and a lot of work for guys like me. It's a lot of work. I just really don't know what to watch, what to think, and are we going to watch ILT20 and SLT20 happening at the same time? So I just really want some advice for the people watching. A lot of people want to have a career in sports. A lot of people want to become broadcasters, anchors, presenters, journalists. So and in India, because I haven't traveled to UK, so I really don't know what people think about it there. But in India, it's very glamorous. I asked it to Tanay Tiwari. I have interviewed before. He's the anchor with Star Sports right now. He's very busy in the World Cup. I have asked it multiple people, and it looks really glamorous. Selfies with the likes of Morgans and Instagram reels with Shane Watson. But how much work is it, especially for you who has covered multiple events and multiple sports?
Yeah, look, it's strange because there are times where you think it's glamorous. I think sometimes it feels more glamorous than it actually is. Look, you can look on somebody's Instagram page and see all these pictures with these, big sportsmen and think, wow, that's amazing. And look, it is. And I am, for me, it's a privilege, and I'm so lucky to do a job that I love. I love more than anything. I go every time I'm working. I'm lucky. I go to work with a smile on my face. Not everybody can say that. So you have to realize and go, well, hold on a minute, I'm lucky to do what I do. But it is a job that everybody wants to do, right? It's a job that so many people think, I want to do that. So many young people want to do that. So you're constantly having to be at the top of your game. Always. You can't slack off. You have to treat every interview the same way as you treat any other interview. Any live link that I do, I treat it as the same as I would do anything, regardless whether it's Arsenal, whether it's, I don't know, Luton Town, who are just in the Premier League, small town, small club, but you've got to treat it the same as you would an Arsenal. You've got to just put that work in and extra effort in. And I think, look, I've been doing this a long time now, and I've been a freelancer my whole life. So trying to get new clients in all the time, and you've got to hustle. You got to work harder than the next person. If you're sat there going, oh God, but I'm not getting this opportunity, I'm not getting that, you've got to go and look at yourself and go, what can I do? Because I'm a firm believer there is always more you can do before it gets to that point where you go, oh, well, I've exhausted everything. It's not down to me. It's down to them for not choosing me.
Yeah.
It's not really. There's still, you can do more. You can always do more, and you've got to find a way of outworking the next person. So look, it's a tough job because there is always somebody there waiting to take your job. So you've got to be on it all the time. Look, covering multiple sports can be tough, but for me, I love sport, so it's a joy, and my days don't change because I'm now in this industry. My days are pretty much the same. I still wake up. I still am on top of all the sports news across sports, American sports, football, cricket, boxing, rugby, tennis, golf, motorsport, Formula One. Like, I'm across it. I watch it. I enjoy it. So, you've got to embrace it. You've got to enjoy it. Number one, you've got to have thick skin. I always give advice to young people. I say 2 bits of advice: rhino skin, so that you can take criticism, you can take rejection, and you can just use it as a positive, because you're going to get it in the industry. It always happens. And be a sponge. Soak up that knowledge. Whatever somebody tells you, you can get anything from any conversation with anybody. You could get a tiny piece of advice and just soak it up, because it's going to help you. So look, it's a fun job though. And you've got to enjoy it. You've got to embrace it. And yeah, I'm lucky. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love chatting to people. I love interacting with people, being in a news environment as well at times, and you're breaking news stories. It's great. Yeah. There's a buzz, a thrill that, ever changing. Like, example, I was in the studio when Stuart Broad announced his retirement. So we got wind of it about 20 minutes that there was this, it was going round the whole news desk. So we're hearing rumors now that he might be announcing it. We're like, you're then dissecting it. Really? Is he going to announce it now? He's having an amazing Ashes series. Like, surely he's not announcing it now. You're like, okay, well, is it happening? We're ears to the ground, and then then we got the news. It's like, bang, it is happening, and you're straight on air, and you're straight there being asked questions about Stuart Broad. And I think I had 3 minutes from finding out to live on air. So I had 3 minutes to get a couple of extra stats to just back up, because look, we're not expected to know everything. You know what I mean? But like, right, what can I add to this? Let's just get a couple of little bits, right? I know about his 8 wickets in the Ashes in 2015. How many wickets has he got now? Okay, I know that because I'm watching the Ashes series. So you're just getting this fundamental, a bit of information, but it's a buzz, and it's that excitement and adrenaline pumping that this is breaking news. This is brand new, and you're delivering it to people for the very first time, and it's exciting, and it's moments like that make it worth it.
You said you have been a freelancer for a very long time. Can you give some advices to the new freelancers? I've been a freelancer for a couple of years, not really finding success right now with the freelancing, but especially with the COVID, it was pretty bad in India in 2021. Mm-hmm. And after that, a lot of people have got into this freelancing market. So what are some tips if you can share? Because a lot of people ask me in the DMs, they are in the comment section, and they're asking, so can you give some tips regarding the freelancing market?
Yeah, look, first of all, it's tough. There's no doubt about it. It's tough, and the challenges that you've got are challenges that I've had in the past for sure. I still have challenges now, even today. I'm freelance, so some weeks I'm quiet. I've been quiet for the last couple of weeks. It's got really, really quiet, but then I know it will pick up. But you've got to you've got to embrace that time. You've got to use that time when you are quiet. What more? As it goes back to that, what more can I do? So, okay, I'm quiet, right? I can either sit there. Will I sit there and play video games, or will I watch my favorite TV series? Well, do that when you're tired in the evening. Switch off. But while you've got the energy, what can I do? I can go on LinkedIn. I can go on job websites. I can look for new connections. I can search out where do I want to be working? Right, production companies, Star Sports. Right, who do I know at Star Sports? Do I know anybody? No, I don't. Okay, who can I get in touch with on Star Sports? All right, I might go on. I say LinkedIn, because LinkedIn I find very beneficial, and I just feel as a freelancer that you've got to try and spread your wings, spread your nest. Bring in as many clients as you possibly can. For example, I went through a phase, I think it was the year before COVID, so it's 2019, and I got made redundant from a job I was doing 3 days a week for a sports media company. I was made redundant in May, and in June, I was doing a show on a TV. I was presenting on a TV show on here in the UK. That I've been doing for 6 years on a freelance basis, but like maybe 8 times a month, maybe. So quite twice a week, very regular. For 6 years, I've been doing that. So the month after I got made redundant from one job, the show stopped. They stopped the show. So within a month, I'd lost 2 clients, and my income stream just, and it was like, whoa, oh God, what am I going to do? And I think since then, I've learned to have multiple people that I work with. So if one goes down, it's okay. I've got other clients. If you solely as a freelancer rely on one or two clients, you've got to be careful. So I always say, yeah, just keep building, keep looking for more work. Even at those times where you feel like you get to that position where you're like, oh, okay, this is good. I'm quite comfortable now. It's dangerous, because that's the time when sometimes things can happen. You go, oh, okay, I'm not ready for this. So feeling uncomfortable is not always a bad thing. And it's this balance of, you want that comfort, but also you need that uncomfortable feeling, because that's the bit that drives you and gets you out of bed, gets you focusing, gets you hustling to try and get more work. So yeah, always keep looking, always keep applying. Don't take rejection personally. Everybody is looking for work. It's hard, like it's tough, but you've got to understand rejection and not take it personally. Not easy to do, comes with experience, but you've got to use it as motivation rather than, okay, that's the end of the world. I've not got this job. I set my heart on this job. This was my life. I had to get this job. Well, just put your applications in, take a step back, and then look for the next one. Just keep looking and don't stop, because there's fun, and you can find some fun adventures in the freelance world. You're your own boss. You determine what you want to do. I
think that's what attracts many people. They see it on the internet and they say, "Oh, I will not have a boss. I don't need a boss. I'm my own boss." Stuff like that. And then people on LinkedIn also make it. I think they're making it a lot more seems that it's a lot easier than it actually is. You just mentioned how you need to constantly working hard, switch on. You basically need to be switch on all the time. You just can't afford a 9 to 5 job is something like that. You on your switch at 8 and then you switch it off at 7, but you can't do with the freelancing work. So I think that's a really great piece of advice. Thank you so much for that. But before we finish, last thing that I want to ask you is about your charitable work that you are doing. If you can just, because it really felt a lot of emotions in me when I first saw it on Instagram. I really don't know if you know, but I have been following you on Instagram for quite some time now. Really admire your work, really admire your charitable foundation and support charity that you're doing. So can you explain, because in India also this problem of losing the unborns is quite out there, but we really don't talk about it much because it's a little conservative society, especially here in India. So if you can just say about your personal experiences and what you want to say about all these problems.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for following me and for what you said. Looks really kind. It's nice to hear that. I think sometimes you go about your life and you in this world and you don't think that I don't know. You just don't know if people like your work or anything. You just don't. You get that by just getting booked on the next job, really. Okay, I'm doing something right. So, but thank you. It means a lot. Yeah, look, my partner and I, we suffered a miscarriage 3 years ago. And then we've had 2 more since then. We've had a loss recently as well. So it's been tough mentally, very, very difficult. It is, as you said, a subject that isn't talked about very often.
Yeah.
The support's not really at the level it should be. It's getting better here in the UK, but it's still like it's almost like accepted as, that just happens, move on. That just happens, and it tears your world apart. It really does. So look, it's been very challenging, and in this period, this is coincided with my most successful period on a work front, but I've had to work even harder to kind of push to the back of my mind all the struggles that I've had on this front. So it's been, so when I am working and I'm busy, I feel really rewarded by it, because I know how hard I've had to fight and graft, not just with the work, but also mentally with everything going on. But look, I put a video out there a couple of months after our first loss. My partner really had this strength. She did an Instagram post and it was beautiful. And I didn't, at the time, I was like, how are you strong enough to talk about this? Because I wasn't. And then I grew and got stronger, and I was able, I was one night, I remember I was really struggling one night, and I'm really down, really not feeling very good. And I needed to get my words out. And as men, we're not very good at speaking openly about our feelings or how we're feeling mentally. Are we happy? Are we not? We're just not. But we've got to get better at it, because it helps us. And I decided to put my feelings out there in a video. First of all, there was no reason. I didn't think I would share it. It was just fundamentally to voice what was going on in my head, so I could word it a little bit. And anyway, I decided to post it, and it went quite viral, and which was amazing. And I had so many people contact me, share their stories with me, which made me feel like I wasn't alone, which was amazing. And then a charity got in touch with me, and we started talking. And I started to raise more awareness, and I did some half marathons and to raise money, and started raising money for these charities. And I went to this charity had this big charity ball, and I was invited up on stage to hand out an award and also talk about our journey and speak about it, which I did, which was very difficult, but also, felt really rewarding to be able to do that in front of people. And I now continue to raise awareness for this charity that does amazing work supporting families, and also they do a lot of research into the subject. They work with the government here in the UK as well to try and make recommendations and try and make changes in how baby loss and the aftercare is perceived. And they're doing a great job. And actually, they're about to announce it, but I am now an ambassador for the charity, which they're due to do an announcement very soon, which I'm, again, just honoured to do that. So, yeah, look, it's something close to my heart. It's a struggle that we still are finding ourselves in. We are desperate for a family. I want to have a family. I want to be a dad more than anything in the world. And, we hopefully will get there one day. But, I also want to be able to help others who are going through it, because it's such a dark, difficult place to be in. And if I can, by me voicing it or raising awareness for the subject, can help 1 or 2 people, then great, then it's worthwhile, because it's a lonely place. But it's also a place where, sadly, so many people find themselves in, because it's so common. But look, it's important to me. It's a big part of my life. And, hopefully there's going to be a happy ending at some point.
We certainly hope that so, and we'll pray for you that you become a dad very, very soon. And
thank you, my friend.
Congratulations on the wonderful job that you're doing. So I hope you really enjoyed being on the show, and I hope that England does well, not against India, but against other teams.
Let us have it. Let us have an Indian win. Come on.
They will be bouncing back. I'm sure they will bounce back against Sri Lanka, and but they don't need a win. They need a convincing win to really boost their confidence and to go and to come Lucknow. It will be a huge game, 50, 60,000 people. I walk 20 kilometers from my home, but the traffic will be huge. You just can't imagine. There are four-lane highway going through to the stadium. There are two big malls, one of the biggest in India. It's called Lulu Mall. It has been open, I think, couple of kilometers away from the stadium. So it will be jam packed. It's weekend, and I think it's going to be a great game of cricket. Really hoping for a win for India, but I really want England to bounce back and Ben Stokes to have a great day. I hope you enjoyed being on the show, James, and thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, fans, I'll see you again next time with new guests and more wonderful stories about cricket and the sport you all love.